Good morning, and you're very welcome to this morning's live, which is all about painting. Now, we've covered this topic, but more with a focus on colour in the past, especially over the summer and the bank holiday weekends. But today, what I really want to focus on is the technique of painting, the products you should use, the type of paint, different tips and tricks to make sure that you, if you are tackling a project yourself, achieve a really professional and great finish. So I'm super excited to have Kate Gaynor from the Paint Hub join me today. Now, Kate, I'm sure so many of you follow her anyway. She's just fabulous. She's so much energy. She's so much experience. She's just a wealth of information, and we've been absolutely overwhelmed. That's why I was a little bit late starting, so apologies just with all of your amazing questions. So thank you so much. But don't worry, if you haven't been able to get your question in, you can type as we go along, and we'll do our very, very best to answer as many of them as we can. So I'm just gonna, I see Kate is here now, I'll just let her join us. Good morning. Hi, Kate.
Good morning, Denise. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good, not too bad.
Brilliant.
Have the painting gear on. I'm ready to go now after
Fabulous, fabulous.
the usual.
No, it's great. Well, listen, thank you so much. I was saying in the intro, you've so much knowledge, you've so much energy about this topic. We're so lucky to have you here this morning. So thank you so much for giving up your Saturday morning. No, it's great. It's great. And Kate, listen, we've been overwhelmed with questions. I was actually a little bit late starting because I'm trying to get them. So I know I had a load of questions to ask you, but I think we're going to have to answer some of these fabulous questions that have come in. And some people have shared photos and things like that, so we can go through them. Yeah, no.
Oh, throw me a few curveballs now as well, Denise. A few exciting ones. I'm ready.
I don't believe there's a single curveball for you, Kate. I don't believe there's anything you don't know. So no, it'll be brilliant. It'll be absolutely brilliant. But I just wanted to touch on something you were telling me about that you're planning on launching soon, which is your guide to help people calculate how much paint they need. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in the paint industry, I suppose you're always given a guide of square meters per litre, but that kind of measurement doesn't resonate with most people. Most people wouldn't have a clue what their sitting room is, and they don't want to measure it. So I think a much easier one is us to give a visual, a really concrete visual of here's a sitting room in a typical 2-bed terrace, 3-bed semi, 4-bed semi, 5-bed detached, and to show them a visual of that sitting room with a wraparound couch, or how many windows and doors, and tell people what coverage that would have. So yeah, a layout, a visual layout of a room, and they can see, oh, my room is somewhat between those two rooms.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, that's so helpful, because it is really confusing. Like, you don't know how much paint to buy, or and you're at the mercy of the painter. But then also, if you're trying to do it yourself, you can end up buying far too much. So that's brilliant. I think it's a really, really good idea. It's fabulous.
And we asked loads of our followers, Diane actually lately asking all of our followers how much they used on projects, and they used so much less than we even imagined.
Really? That's fascinating. Yeah.
A lot of people follow Lorraine O'Connor in the West. She got a 1 litre of Helmy 10. It's a matte woodwork paint in midnight black. She did her bed, a really high chest of drawers, the 2 bedside lockers, and the back of the door with half of that litre. I nearly cried the lack of paint sale. I was devastated. But really, she stretched it out. Yeah, so you can, and people are buying too much. They are buying too much. And Tickerilla's motto this year is care more, buy less, which is a lovely motto to have.
That's fabulous. Yeah, no, it's amazing. Amazing. And does it depend on the type of paint that you buy then? Like, is there, I suppose, can you get more out of certain types of paint than you would out of others? Like, will you go through more?
Yeah, and funnily enough, a lot of the cheaper paints you might get more coverage out of, because there's more chalks and fillers in there than resin. And resin is what you're buying paint for. Like, resin is like your tree sap, that sticky, thick resinous material, and that's what's on there. That's your lacquer layer. That gives you the scrubbability, the hardness, makes it last. When you put in all these chalks and fillers, do you ever go into a really a cheap, like a new build or that, or when you buy a house in a housing estate, where I bought mine, and you rub your hand off the wall and it's all chalk.
And it comes off. Yes. Yeah.
And they would have got phenomenal coverage out of that. Like, if you look in the shop at the emulsions, look at the cheaper 10 litre drums, and sometimes they'll say 14 or 18 square meters per litre. So coverage doesn't have a direct relationship with quality. It often has an inverse relationship.
That's fascinating. That's
Yeah,
really, really good to know.
yeah,
And no, I've often experienced that, or you move past and you end up with loads of almost dust on your coat or whatever you're
yeah,
wearing. Yeah. No, that's
yeah.
fantastic. Brilliant. And then, Kate, like, what are some of the most common mistakes? Like, we touched on people buying too much paint, but what are other mistakes people should watch out for if they're buying
Yeah,
paint and
there's
stuff?
there's a load
There's
we do,
loads of them.
and
Yeah.
that's why I do the painting as well, because
Yeah.
only when you do it you realize. Like, so
Yeah.
I do a lot of painting. I love getting a painter whenever I can. Um, one of the big ones would be using old tools in the shed, and we're really, if anyone that follows us knows, we're really anti-sales on it. We're like, get exactly what you need, cut down on the paint. We love the eco and the bamboo handles,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
people are going out to the shed and using an inferior old black bristle brush with lovely new paint they got. And
Hmm.
those black, they should be illegal, those black bristle brushes,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
every reason. Number one, they're not cruelty free. They're hog's hair, which isn't great. If we
Really,
can make
Kate?
some,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Oh my
And if we
goodness.
can make synthetic ones of the
Yeah.
same quality for the same price, I don't see why they should be bought at all. We discontinued them. We're the only shop I'm aware of in the world that refuses to sell black bristle brushes as a paint shop. But anyway, the black bristle brushes, they're very firm and
Hmm.
they're quite strong. And when you paint with them, they dig such large troughs into the paint. Excuse me, it doesn't level back out.
Oh my
So
goodness. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you need to use soft synthetic brushes that don't gouge into the paint and give the paint a chance of leveling out.
Okay.
One other one that people never seem to have heard of is the paint being warm. If your paint is warm, it just flows out like silk. And if it's cold, it's kind of jellyish. And again, those tracks are more likely to stay in there. It's less likely to level out beautifully.
That's fascinating. And actually, I've seen that because often people will keep their paint in a garage or an outdoor shed or something where it's really, really cold. And you do open it and it is like a jelly consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's great. Let it warm up. That's a
And you
brilliant
can
tip.
bring it into your local paint shop and they'll throw it in the spinner for you. Otherwise, you're looking at a little hot water bath. Sounds gas, but if you do
Wow.
have a basin, put in some hot water, put in the paint, but you do need to agitate the paint. It's
And
not
stir
going
it.
to
Yeah.
heat up very quickly. You need to agitate. But a lot of painters will put it in the hallway the night before, or they'll put it in the footwell of the van on the way to the job. And so it makes a big, big difference.
That's fascinating. Wow, I never knew that. That's really, really good. And then Kate, like I know we've chatted about this before with undercoats and primers. Can you just discuss the difference between the two and when do you need to use either one?
Yeah, and those terms are used interchangeably.
Yeah,
I
they
didn't
are
know. Yeah,
completely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So your primer is typically only required when you're dealing with a raw, porous substrate. So
Okay.
something that has never been painted before, raw wood, raw plaster. And then an undercoat is, or sorry, and a difficult surface. So if it's a ceramic tile or something very
Okay.
slippery.
Yeah.
But if you're painting interior walls, interior woodwork, your house, you've already painted them before, and
Hmm.
no primer is needed. Your
Hmm.
paint is designed to stick to other layers of paint. Your
Hmm.
paint that's on there is the very same as a primer. It's already on there, just paint on paint.
Okay.
When it comes to undercoat, though, an undercoat is like a bodybuilding layer. So undercoat, we don't usually sell undercoats. Like I would say for undercoat, what you're trying to do with an undercoat is get a little bit of your paint layer on a little bit cheaper than using too many top coats. So let's say your wall
Ah,
behind you, if
okay.
you were going black and
Yeah.
you're thinking, God, this could take 3 coats of black. I'm using a really high-end scrubbable paint. You then would buy, let's say, Optiva primer tinted to a dark color,
Hmm.
or go out into your shed. I always say, it really undercoats just bridging the color gap.
Okay.
Or,
Yeah.
yeah, depending on the project, 99% of the time, bridging the colour gap. But I would go out into your shed, and if you already have a dark green or a dark navy, if the wall behind you is going midnight black, I'd get them, and I put on one layer of that. It's free, you've already bought it, and it bridges that gap of going from white to black.
Okay. Brilliant. And vice versa then, if you're going dark to light, you'd have to do something similar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like
Okay.
loads of paints now, the coverage is so good that like you're not going to be putting on 4 or 5 coats. I went
Yeah.
white to wrought iron, practically black in 2 coats.
Wow.
I used the Optimum roller though. I used Optimum tools. I had the paint more. I knew how to get it on there. But like if years ago you would have used an undercoat, but a lot of the paints now they're coming on. They're obviously they're advancing in the technology of paint chemistry every year, and nowadays the coverage is so good on a lot of the paint products that I don't know, is there many people buying undercoats?
That's fascinating. Okay, really interesting. And then we just did a question there. Do you need to prime if you have got that chalky new build paint, if you're repainting?
Yeah, the chalky rebuild paint is dodgy. It's really dodgy. Yeah, I found you can paint on layers of good paint and you still have the chalky layer in there. So
Yeah.
if you have, oftentimes, if you have any mechanical kind of stress on that paint, it will come
Mm.
away at that point. So I
Yeah.
could put on 3 layers of a really good paint, and in 10 years' time, I have a poster on there with a strong adhesive tape. And when I pull it,
Oh,
it's the bond between my paint and the chalky that will come away.
that comes away.
I have it in my kitchen. I can stick a picture this evening. I painted a chalkboard wall in the kitchen,
Yeah.
and we pulled off some sticker the children had stuck to it, and I pulled it back off to the plaster. Pink, I could see pink
Oh my
plaster.
God.
So
Yeah.
yeah, the plaster hadn't been primed, and that chalky layer hadn't bonded well. The solution to that is it's an additive that's in every paint shop around the country. Oatral make it, and it's a little bit pricey. I think it's around €30, and it's called EV bonding agent. And it's like a glue, and you put a big glug of it into your paint. So when I did
Mm.
the kids' mural, I didn't want that coming off. I poured a
Mm.
big glug into the main can of menthol, and then I put a little bit into all the tester pots, stirred it up, and it just is like a really strong glue, and it just adheres on much stronger, but it's a firmer surface as well. So when you go to take something off, you're much less likely to damage it. But
Yeah.
having that chalky layer below, it's always there. So at new builds, I always say, do not thin down the first coat. Get a primer. It's so different. Thinning down the first coat, it's done so commonly, and it's not the right way to approach a new build.
Wow. No, that's great advice. Wow, incredible. And I've seen that happen, but never understood why that was happening. So really, really good to understand.
And
Yeah, the quality
that,
is so important. It's critical. It really, really is. Really critical.
especially on the new builds, like when you see where you peel off a poster and it goes back to the pink plaster, like that's what you're heading for with new builds in years to come if you
Mm.
don't prime it. And it's easy, it's cheaper than watering down the top coat. Like
Mm.
primers, Optiva primer is at €40 or something, and you just lash it on. But people, when they thin down the top coat, they think, oh, it's waterier now, it'll soak in, but it won't. The grind is the same. All the particle size is the same. You've just watered down. It's like putting a bucket of sand and putting water in. You've just dispersed sand particles more, but they're still the same size. So with primers, it's called the fineness of grind. They go back into the grinding mill. They're ground down again. What happens is, instead of just sitting on the wall, they penetrate in and grip onto your wall. So like
Mm.
when you prime a surface, you should never see that pink plasterboard ever again.
Never
The
again. Yeah.
pigment should be in it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, that's probably my top tip for self-build. You're never going to have paint problems. Get a specific acrylic primer, get it on the wall, and it's cheaper than watering a top coat. That's the madness about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the right way to do it is incredible. And actually, just on that, I might jump to one of the questions that we got because it was on somebody who's just installed a brand new stairs. So, it's a timber stairs, never been painted. And they're asking, what is the best product to use to paint that? They want to paint the stairs. So,
Yeah,
for
and
woodwork.
stairs are tricky. They get a lot of wear.
Mm.
We use a single pack acrylic for stairs, and we often say about putting a protective lacquer over it. And the
Hmm.
protective lacquer just gives an extra layer between you and the stairs. So
Yeah.
Tikkurila, when we go, is naturally the better looks. There are a few good single pack floor paints out there, but ask in your local shop, because we have a 5 litre of floor paint for €35, and it's dire quality. But sometimes we need it. We're painting our garage floor, we're renting, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah,
35. I
yeah,
usually
yeah,
push people along from it. And then the Bettelux, I think, could be €60 for a 3 litre.
yeah.
So ask in your local shop. Our one is Bettelux, and that's a single pack water based, a tough one. All
Mm.
of our line marking in our shop is done with that. So
Okay.
ask them, for
Yeah,
example, see have they
yeah.
got it on the floor in their shop, or have you heard of a project? You really want stairs. That's the ultimate test. You've got a lot of wear. But with your stairs, make sure your preparation is immaculate. Get the
Hmm.
paint on perfectly,
Hmm.
and then all you'll be doing is every couple of years you will be touching up. You just get it, wash it, 4 inch roller, and do each step really quickly, no cutting in. So the
Okay.
main thing is, if you get the prep and the priming right, you can come back on jobs really easily with a teeny cup full of paint.
Brilliant. Okay, that's amazing. And actually, I'll just jump to a quick color one, and because I got so many questions about what is the best white or off-white to use on any woodwork, skirtings, architraves, and stuff. And I have the Tikkurila. What one is this, Kate? This is the Feel the Color catalog, but there's a beautiful white which is called Tikkurila White. Now, would you sell most of that? Is that quite popular?
Yeah, that's really, they're soft, like
Yes, it's
they're
really, really nice. It's
run of
just
the mill, yeah.
gorgeous. And then there's another really nice one, which is called Paper White, which I don't know if people can see, but that would be just a really beautiful white. You know, it's going to go with anything. Both of them actually would go with absolutely any color scheme, whether it's warm or cool or whatever. So they're the two definitely I'd recommend.
And Denise, you picked that paper on your own. That's our top selling white for woodwork. Good choice.
Really?
Yeah, that's our like above me. Yeah, because
Thank God for that.
I think we steer them that direction. And years ago, we went over to Gorilla and they said it's the most unaffected. There's no yellow or blue undertones. It's just
That's
a
it.
soft
Yeah, it's
white.
gorgeous.
Yeah, so that's
It's
our
really,
good choice.
they're really lovely. They're really lovely. That's brilliant. And then just with woodwork, Kate, should people be using oil-based or water-based paints? Because that's something we would get asked all the time. So what's your advice for that?
Oh my God, water-based all the way. Millions
Okay.
of reasons why. Like
Yeah.
number one, there's no smell. Two, it's non-yellowing. You're oil-based, no matter what the
Ah,
brand. I don't know why it's still in use,
wow.
Denise. I do know why it's still in use. It's handier. And if you're painting, if you're a painter, you're painting every day, it's a handy option, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't allow it in my house in a bit. So you paint your skirtings and your walls white
Yeah.
with oil-based in that paper color. 2 years' time, you know that yellowy, varnishy
Yes.
look?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with every
Oh my
oil-based
God.
woodwork paint in the world. Yeah, it's terrible.
Wow.
So water-based, it's water-based, so it's lower odor. It
Mm-hmm.
won't yellow. It's
Mm-hmm.
faster drying. It's
Mm-hmm.
more eco, and it's easier to wash your tools.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, look, that's great, and that's a brilliant tip because I was told years ago it was sort of heat and lack of natural light that caused it to yellow, but it's not at all. It's the fact that it's
No,
oil based. Yeah.
it's a fact of so, and every brand oil-based. That's it. So then you think, why is it being used? So it's being
Mm,
used because I suppose painters, it's a craft. They get used to a product, they love a product, and oil
mm,
based, like I said, there the water based is very fast drying, the oil based isn't, so it's nicer for them to use. Yeah, but
okay.
for no other benefit. It's just one project, get it done, and then you
Yeah.
have a non-yellowing white for. I'm
Yeah.
not going to paint my woodwork every 2 years. I'd be looking for about 8 years out of mine.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, cheap as you couldn't be doing that. The disruption of it alone. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's fabulous advice. Okay, brilliant. And I see just a question there. Does paper white come available in interior walls? Can you do it on both walls and woodwork and furniture? So do
Yeah.
you sell both? Yeah. Yeah, in
Yeah,
different
oh
finishes.
God, yeah. That feel the color card is for everything, walls, woodwork, everything. And I like that question. Like if you're looking for that Scandi high look or anything, I do that paper, your walls, your ceiling, all your woodwork in the room, and then bring in your lovely green throws and stuff.
Yeah,
So yeah, I
fabulous.
love that.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's lovely, really, really fresh. Okay, brilliant. So I might just jump to another question, and actually one that I loved on your stories recently, Kate. You were saying one of the most satisfying paint jobs was painting tiles.
Yeah.
You're showing
Oh
painting tiles.
yeah.
So there's a question about that. Should just this person is wondering, is it a good idea, or will they constantly need to be touched up, or will they chip and stuff like that? So what's your advice there for painting
Yeah,
tiles?
if your preparation is inadequate, they will chip and it will give you hardship. But
Yeah.
the preparation, it's really straightforward. Like we say, wash it twice and then
Okay.
leave it 1 full day for all moisture to come out of the grout. So
Yeah.
the only reason, if you've used paint that's decent and is designed for that, which if
Mm-hmm.
it says tile paint, it should be. There are different grades, obviously, but if
Mm-hmm.
you've used the paint that says it's for tiles, it's designed for scrubbing, moisture, anti-mold. It's designed for all those things, so it will do it. So your margin for error is only with your washing and the drying out. So where I suppose if you only wash it once, you've got shampoos, hairspray, or if it's kitchen, you've got oils and greases. It
Sure.
definitely needs two really good washes to make sure it's completely spotless. I'd even give an alcohol wipe afterwards, especially kitchen
Okay.
splashbacks. So I'd nearly
Okay.
do 3 washes because after you've washed it, if it's immaculately clean and bone dry, you've no margin for error and you should be able to scrub it 10,000 times with detergents, bleaches, washing solutions, spraying flash all over it with no issue.
Fabulous. Okay, great. And actually, you mentioned anti-mold there. There was another question saying that they have black mold in the bathroom. What should they do? Is there anything they can do about that in terms of painting products to use if they're repainting?
Yeah, so same thing. A lot of the agenda with that one is to make sure it's a clean substrate as well. So use
Yeah.
those anti-mold sprays, clean it back, give it a scrape back if you need to be. If that paint layer is consumed with the mold, you'll know when you're washing it back, and then go with a paint that has anti-molding agents that won't allow the mold to grow on top of it again.
Okay, that's wonderful. Brilliant. And then I see a question just there. Can you paint on top of gloss paint with a matte paint, or do you need to strip the existing gloss paint?
Oh God, yeah, you don't need to strip it. Absolutely not. You have two options: a light sanding, which I would go with. That'll be the cheapest and the quickest, or an adhesion primer. So we have Otex, which sticks to. We do for tiles, floors, everything. So if you really don't want to sand it, but depending on what it is, I'd say it's probably woodwork. It's just a very light sanding,
Yeah,
very light
yeah.
sanding.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic, brilliant. And then we had another question. Yeah, because you mentioned they're wiping down paints and stuff. So loads and loads and loads of questions about what is the best product for wiping down. Can you get a super durable, washable paint that doesn't have a sheen? So what products do you advise, Kate, for that? You know, people with kids, pets, that kind of thing, looking for something that's really, really durable.
Yeah, our standard run-of-the-mill ones, like our Optiva 3 and Optiva 5. So Optiva 3, it's a chalky type finish, but totally durable. Again, you can
Brilliant.
scrub
Yeah,
and wash the hell out of it. So I
yeah.
have that in deep colors. The chalky ones show up your kind of handprints and that. So
Mm-hmm.
I did black in the bathroom and the kids are always touching it. And then I went in my hallway with Optiva 5. So 3 is a 3% sheen, 5 is a 5% sheen, but your matte is 0 to 10. Like it's a
Okay.
0 to 100 scale, and all maths are 0 to 10. So Optiva 5 is bang in the middle of math, but there's a very light kind of soft sheen off it, very light, but it just means it doesn't show up as much, the paw prints and that. So if
Okay.
there's no kids in the house, I'd go Optiva 3. If
Yeah.
there is, I go Optiva 5, and they're both super durable. So yeah, there are loads of paints. Again, it's just down to what's below. If there's chalky paint below, throw in a bit of that bonding agent, the Otrol bonding agent. And if there isn't, then just, yeah, lash it on. They're all durable. I think in the market, the general paint brands, the couple that are up at the higher kind of price point, not the super premium designer ones, a lot of those are designery and they're not durable, but your
Mm-hmm.
standard paint market, most of them nowadays are really durable in terms of washability.
Okay, fantastic, brilliant. And just somebody asking, they missed the beginning. Will we save it? We will save this to IGTV, and I'll share it in stories. So don't worry, you can watch it back. No, that's great, Kate. And then actually, we've a load of questions about paint pads. I don't know what they are. People are saying, would you recommend them? Do you recommend paint pads? Is it?
Oh, the foam.
Well, they're saying, yeah. Somebody asked in place of rollers, so it must just be another way maybe of applying. Uh,
I haven't used them. No,
okay,
I
yeah.
haven't used them. I think with foam, you're not usually getting on as much paint as with a roller. So we have foam rollers, and foam is much more dense. It's like a sponge. So it'll be like rubbing on the paint with a sponge. They're little bit gimmicky, I'd say. I'd say
Mm,
here as well, a roller would be cheaper, and it makes it look all non-drip and all this. But no matter what you're painting with, you have to protect the floor and get it on. So no, I've seen them all right. I haven't used one, but I don't see how the sponge would be superior than a roller pile, because that's
hmm.
designed with a tight weave to hold
Yeah.
in paint and let it off gradually. So no, I wouldn't rate them. If you have one, give it a go if you have it already. But if you're buying it, a roller will be cheaper.
Okay, fantastic. And then there's a couple of questions there about high-end paints like Farrow and Ball. Somebody saying, are they worth it? And then somebody else saying, what are your thoughts about the painters suggesting that they'll color match rather than using the actual product? So what would your advice be there for people?
Oh, tricky one now.
Yeah.
The color matching is difficult. It's a small bit probably cheeky as well because it's Farrow and Ball's colors. I do, but
Mm,
Farrow and Ball colors are unbelievable. They wouldn't be known for their durability. So
mm,
when we had it in the shop, if somebody came in, if they had children, I'd say no, don't, because you're going to have to touch it up so regularly. The colors though are outstanding. It does give that lovely chalky finish. Um, we go with the Tactical Optiva 3. It's a similar chalky finish, but you can wash it. Now
mm.
it says it's come on. They have adverts now. I saw their lovely advert with a really funny one where they wrap up the dog in the cling film so you
Yes,
won't wreck the
yeah,
walls.
yeah.
But no, they definitely wouldn't be known for their durability and would be known for their lovely colours. The colour matching is dodgy. I wouldn't go down that route. I just find every brand has thousands of colours. Like
Yeah.
NCS is an international colour code. So I get your tester pot in the actual colour you're going to get. So no, I wouldn't be really down for the colour matching. It's a little
No,
bit cheeky.
I'd agree with you. And also you don't get the color you want then. It's
No.
close to impossible to get it exactly. So if you fall in love with a color, happens to be an expensive one, just go for it. You know, like weigh it
Yeah.
up. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And then I might just jump to another color one, Kate, because we got loads and loads and loads of questions again about north and east facing rooms. What are nice, warm, neutral colors to use? So again, I was looking at this and there's some beautiful ones. Actually, one was to do with a north facing hallway with oak doors.
So I was thinking this color here, chai, is really, really nice. I don't know if people can see it.
Gorgeous.
It's really beautiful. And actually, there's a little one up here, which I'm going to point to, which is slightly lighter, which would also work. Halva, it's called. But the nice thing about the chai is it's not too golden, but it would have that warmth, that you'd get from those warmer tones. And I think in a hallway, it's really nice to go a bit darker, especially if the hall is dark anyway, because, it's more of a transition space. You're never going to be sitting there for long periods of time or anything like that. So those are really nice. And then
Beautiful.
for sitting rooms and living rooms, there's some lovely ones, which I thought were gorgeous. So like driftwood.
Yes,
It's really
very
nice.
popular driftwood. Yeah,
It's
lovely.
really lovely, and
Yeah.
again, it would create that nice cozy feel, because somebody was saying, what's the best white for a north or east facing room? But I'd steer clear of whites, because no matter what white you choose, it's going to look super clinical. Just the light's always going to be really cold. So you're much better off trying to create a nice cozy cocoon-like atmosphere. So again, those gorgeous colors, like we were saying for the hallway, like chai, is going to make it feel really rich. And you could introduce navies then, or burgundies, or colors like that. So loads of options there, which I think are really, really lovely. Brilliant. So then, Kate, another question that we got. Yes, they want to paint. No, actually, we dealt with that. That's the gloss paint again. Paneling in hallways. What paint do you recommend for that? So people that are trying to create that nice paneled hallway.
A good water-based acrylic. So we go with Helmi. We put that on kitchen presses, paneling, skirtings, doors, everything. It's price point. It's in the middle of all the other brands. So we just, if you're going with lower brands, we think it's the extra couple of euros worth it. But usually it's slightly below in price. We go with that for everything, because it's an acrylic. It's water-based. So like we said, all the advantages of water-based, but it's good and durable. So for paneling is it's really at the height of your keys, your handbag, your kids can reach it. So yeah, we go with that, because you can wash it with a slight bleach solution to freshen it up. So again, the Scandinavian model, we really buy into that of buying less and having it last longer. Like my mom painted her hallway 19 years ago. It's not terrible now, but the paint was good. But I'm always saying, I'll give it to you free, Mom. But I'm that kind of background, I suppose, very frugal. We're fourth generation paint, and we're frugal with it. But yeah, you don't want to be touching up paneling again, because all the little grooves and that. So I think where we make the mistake is, and I said we've got €35 floor paint up to 210 literally. And when people come in, I try to explain the cost of the project. Unless you love painting, you're either paying someone or you're taking a day off, all the tools. So we have to look at the labor element, and not just, people often come in and there's a €5 difference in two cans, and they're big cans. And we're saying, Jesus, it's a go away and wait another week and come back with the extra fiver and do it. So people put too much emphasis on the price of the paint. And that's not me selling the premium paint. This is at the average market, where, especially paneling, I think you need to put that extra bit in, get something decent, and not have to do that job again. Do it once and wash it. Wash it every few months.
No, wonderful advice. Absolutely wonderful advice. And then we had a question about timber windows. So she has timber windows, has quite a strong, a heavy wood grain in the timber. She's concerned about painting them. I would sort of suggest yes. With timber windows, it's kind of nice if you neutralize it. It will totally give the room a whole new look. But what product would you advise, Kate, if she's tackling something like that?
And I presume this is the internal.
The internal, yeah, I presume it is, absolutely, because she's talking about then what color to do with the color scheme. So again, I'd be steering her with the Tickerilla white or paper white or something like that.
Yeah. We've two options. The Helmi, which we use for all internal woodwork, we put that on the wooden windows. So to prime them first, make sure and get the primer right. And then, or else Unica, it's more of an enamel, but it gives that more, like that PVC, that satin sheeny finish. So you either want to look like the rest of your woodwork, or you might want it to look like those powder coated, plastic coated. So for exterior, it's Unica, and you can also use Unica inside as well. So sometimes people are doing both. Great. And we give them the one can and say, do both with the one can. Or if it's just inside, then Helmi. But Unica be our top one, like Velux windows and the likes, they all buy that. I suppose Tickerilla is it's not very well known here, but it's the #1 brand in Scandinavia, Eastern Europe, Russia. So there's some big window and door manufacturers that use that as their lacquer on them all before they leave the factory. That's what I go with. It's just a really thick enamel. And that's a nice, easy job too. It's just masking off. It's painful, but doing your windows, oh my God, like you said, transforms the room.
It totally does. No, it really, really does. Yeah. And it opens up the view, you know, especially when you go for a nice neutral color. Suddenly you're not focused on the windows, which when they're timber are the feature, and the view kind of takes center stage. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. And when they're timber, you're stuck on that orange palette then. Like if they're timber, you have a lovely room. It really does. And it's like the same, we get people buying lovely greys and the floor is terracotta. But when the floor is terracotta or those tiles, you're stuck then in that like orange, red, brown palette.
Yeah,
you know?
it's very difficult. No, it is. It's very limiting. And we got a great question actually, how to tackle painting a concrete floor.
Difficult, yeah. It's floors. So if it's for I presume probably a garage if it's concrete floor. It might be inside. I did a few rooms in my house with a self-leveling epoxy. Floors are tricky. What happens is when they lay the floors and you see the guys with those big timber lats and they're patting it down, you see them when they're doing pats in town or anything. So when they level off the concrete, all the moisture rises to the top and evaporates off. But the last little layer of water is on there, and that's your latents. And that's a weak, chalky, friable layer on top of your concrete. So if you just paint directly, I know it's real dusty. Do you ever get when you're brushing a concrete floor and you could be brushing, it's like brushing a stick of chalk.
It does. It attracts dust or something. Yeah, no, it's incredible.
And that's your latents. It might still be brushing a layer of chalk because you're bringing up the latents. Get your finger or your penknife. So long story short, you need to remove the layer of latents if you want a long life system on your floor. You need to go to the hire centre and rent a diamond grinder, a handheld one. I did my garage. It was a 2-pack epoxy, which is expensive and should last me 10 years, 10, 15 years. I wasn't going to do it again. So we got a grinder, grinded off that chalky weak layer, hoovered up all the dust and then lashed it on. So the same as any big commercial facility, they'll do that. If it's your own garage, you're less likely. And I'd say then go to €35 a drum, because when somebody drops a gas canister or the lawnmower, when your paint comes off, there'll be chalky concrete on the back. So it won't be the paint. We often get called to say, why did this paint fail on a floor? And when you look at it, the paint is stuck to the floor, but the floor is coming off. So
the floor is come off.
It's tricky. Go into, again, your local shop. We sell Betalux. It's a good one. But go into your local shop. There are loads of grades, like your single pack all the way down to your 2-pack epoxies. But I wouldn't put those on a floor that isn't ground back, because it's not worth it, because your life expectancy is short.
Okay, great advice. And I see another stairs one there. Any tips for painting the spindles on a staircase?
I saw people doing this with like a sock or a glove lately. Did you see that?
Really? I didn't. No.
Yeah, like what did they have on their hand? Sock. And they were saying it's brilliant, but with a sock, a lot of people messaged me asking, but with a sock, you're wiping on as much as you're wiping off. There's nothing too easy. Like I would probably just go with like a decent pile on a roller. Brushing is awkward and you get a lot of drips. I'd probably go with, I'll show you actually.
Oh, great.
You know, have our new Alchemist rollers here now. Used to get a free advert to 44 people.
There'll be those watching later, Kate. Don't worry.
So you know, watching us. I don't know. With your roller, so there's a short pile roller, and that'll only hold so much paint, but it won't get into all the crevices and divots on it. And look at the difference. Look at that one.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So
that's incredible.
You could be putting 4 coats on with this, and you could be putting on 1 with this. Now, I would say put on 1 with this and maybe lightly lick over with this in the end. I'd never say 1 top coat, because you're always going to have a miss, and that area won't be washable or scrubbable, and that area, the colour below will grin through. There's so many times where someone says to us like, oh, that isn't the product, the colour. It takes 100 microns of paint typically to obliterate the colour below. So if it's going to be a colour change, you have to get on a lot of paint. But anyway, for your banisters, I'd get a medium to long pile roller and go at it that way.
Okay, great advice. That's fantastic. Brilliant. And then I just see, I'm so conscious I'm missing all these questions here, but one lady saying that she painted paneling a cream in her hall, and then she's gone with calm cloud on the walls, but she's got pine doors and she wants to paint, she needs to paint her pine doors. I'd suggest match it with the paneling. I mean, ideally it's nice to keep all your woodwork together. So Go for it. Yeah,
Absolutely. That will be
sounds great.
such a transformation. And then you're not seeing the doors and the actors. I absolutely love when the room, the door and the architrave and skirting is all in one colour. I think it's magnificent. I
Yeah,
love that.
no, it's gorgeous. It really, really is gorgeous. How to
Please.
choose an exterior color? We've talked about that before, Kate, as well. So what's your advice then with exterior paints if people are
Oh
planning
my
outdoor
God.
projects?
On the color card, go 4 shades darker than the one you want. Oh, it catches me
Okay,
every time. I'm at this.
really?
I am at this my whole life. You want to see the state of the yellow color I picked for outside in our patio? I said I go for a lovely deep mustard. And it's like a canary, like a really sunflower bright yellow. It catches me every time. You
Yeah,
have when, and you know what? I was walking around Carlow yesterday evening, and I was looking, and the amount of houses that don't have enough of a difference between our plinth and our wall, and it's so
yeah,
opaque. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
bet you
yeah.
they put it on the chart that this is a dark grey, this is a light grey, and it's not. They're bloody nearly the same grey.
The same, and they do. You're absolutely right. And I think it's, people are nervous to go too dark, but actually, when you're looking, like here's some of your external colors. So when you see
Yeah,
these colors on against a white background, they do appear really dark, but in reality, when you put them up, they're going to look an awful lot brighter.
yeah.
So yeah, be brave, I would say.
Like all the
Um,
ones over that side, like they're really light. You might as well be going for white. They're
Here,
so light.
yes, you'll
Yeah,
never, you'll
like if
never
you
see
like
that.
that
Yeah,
one
yeah,
in at the crevice of the paper, the third up, you'd want to be going 3 in at least to get that
yeah.
color.
So this one
Yeah,
here is something,
that
and
one.
you want,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
there. Or again,
fascinating.
I'd be gone on again, but that one where your finger is, that
Yeah,
will give you the look of the first one. Believe it or not.
yes,
They just
yeah. It's incredible.
outside,
Yeah.
the illumination outside is unbelievable, and the colors are just, they're not the way they appear there.
No.
Go at least 3 swatches darker than what you want. That's my
Yeah.
big one for outside, and it catches me every time.
No, it's great. And then I think your point about the plinths and, people who have lovely reveals around their windows to differentiate. So maybe to go with an off-white or something to make them stand out because that really defines the house, because you see some houses where they just paint everything the one color and everything just
Yeah,
disappears and blends
yeah.
away. So it's nice to pick
And
out those details, I think.
yeah, and to take account of as well, it's like in your room when you have like the terracotta on the floor or a pine door and you've gone with a scheme that's ignoring that fact and it just doesn't pull it together. Same
Yeah.
thing with the exterior of houses. Again, I walked by a house and they had that, the red terracotta tiles on the roof, but their
Yes.
scheme was oblivious of the roof. It was like this grey scheme. So it made the grey look bad, it made their roof look bad, whereas a lovely soft green or some of those other colours that match that terracotta would have enhanced everything in the house. So I suppose
Hmm.
we can't look at painting the walls without seeing what colour palette is on the roof.
Yeah, and try and pull out color, maybe you're paving or something, the whole thing needs to coordinate. So it's like
Yeah,
picking an internal scheme. You're looking at everything that's surrounding your house and trying to
yeah.
coordinate that. So that's important. No, really good.
Denise, I have a new house now. Will you come down and help me with my
Oh my
schemes?
God, I'd be
I
delighted.
haven't got a
Once I can
clue.
travel to Carlo, I'll be there.
Yeah, come on down. I'll make the tea and the rasher
I'd
salad
love
for
it.
you.
I'd love
I
it.
know,
I'd
because
love
I'm
it.
not. People think I'm colouring and not at all. I suppose I'm here so long I hear the tips, but I still have not got an eye for colour. Like I wouldn't, like when you said they're pulling in the path and everything, I just wouldn't. Even you pick chai, I'm like, I'm going home to use some chai. It looks lovely.
Chai does
Yeah.
look fabulous. No, it's
Looks
beautiful. And actually,
lovely.
there was a question there. So somebody's a bit confused about how to choose the colors from the card because they can't tell what's yellow and what's a pink based and stuff like that. And I suppose if I hold it up, so here you can see this is kind of your gray palette there. And you'll see that what I'd be steering people towards would be any of them that have a slight, sounds a bit weird, but a slight green undertone to them.
Love
So
it.
yeah, so move away from anything that looks slightly pinky, particularly with the gray. An absolute giveaway is where it starts to go a bit purple. So I'd steer clear of that. So anything with slightly earthier, greeny sort of tones is going to work really, really well. And it's all to do with the kind of light we get in Ireland. It's a very soft
Yeah.
light,
Yeah.
so you've got to kind of think about that as well. But those colors are much easier to live with as well. So probably definitely steer away from anything that's too yellow, anything that's too pinky, and try and find that middle ground. The more earthier
Great.
colors would be my advice for that.
And with flooring as well, Denise, they always recommend the greeny tone to the grey for flooring. People naturally pick out the lovely, clean, bluey greys, but the
Yes.
dirt pickup on those is phenomenal. Whereas
Wow.
the
Okay.
opposite is
Yeah.
true, where our warehouse floor, we always go the greeny greys and you don't see the
Lovely.
dirt.
No, you
We're not
don't. And
filthy or anything, but
but they're warmer as well, because
yeah,
those blue toned grays or
yeah,
purpley grays, they can be really cold, so no, they're
no.
gorgeous. And then Kate, there's one there, and I know this because we had to do this. Part of my house is pebble dashed, but tips for painting pebble dashed. And I had to keep buying paint. It drinks the paint. It's
terrible.
it's a
Great for
dreadful
me,
flipping.
terrible for you. Yeah, really. Like
Oh yeah,
you'd want to. That's why we're making up those kind of common examples of how much paint you use, because on
oh they're
Pebble Dash
brilliant.
you may
Yeah,
double or triple it, Denise. Yeah, you're literally
really.
doubling or
Yeah,
tripling. Yeah, I think
yeah,
twice
yeah.
what putting on the house, and then getting the paint in there is double or triple the work as well.
Wow.
So
Yeah, of
you're
course it is.
really,
So it takes
yeah.
longer. Yeah, yeah. And then Kate,
So
just can you remind people of that long pile roller? People are asking for the name. What's the name of that roller?
yes. So Axis Decor, they make great tools anyway. Oh, which one? Oh yeah, the one with the foam. So
With the
for
foam, yeah.
outside, so for tips for painting Pebble Dash. So outside Pebble Dash, you're looking at, first of all, if you can get your hands on a sprayer, that's the optimum. I'd leave that one to the professionals if you can, or if your brother-in-law or someone has a sprayer and you're going to do like a multi-directional pattern to make sure you're getting down and into it. So spraying is the best one. You'll use
Okay.
less product and less time. And
Yeah.
next one then will be Axis Decor have these magnificent brushes called Multitasker, and they have a big, thick stock on them, loads of bristles, and you're just
Mm,
really working it again, multi-directional into it.
yeah.
Lastly, then the Captain Chunk roller, again with Axis Decor, and it has the core of the roller, then it has a spongy foam layer, and then the hairy pile. Now, it doesn't work on Pebble Dash. Pebble Dash is too deep because you can have literally huge crevices. It just works
Wow.
on exterior walls that are slightly textured, see like a rough plaster finish. Otherwise, you're pressing. The big mistake people make with roller is using any level of force or pressing. You shouldn't be pressing. Dip and get loads of paint and lightly roll it. Your roller should have a significant enough pile that it can get into any corners and crevices without you pressing. All you're doing when you're pressing is compressing the pile, and the paint isn't releasing properly. So even when we roll our walls at home with normal emulsion, we're often pressing. So we shouldn't
Mm,
be. Very, very light. So for the Captain Chunk one is great for if you have a rougher texture on your wall, but not,
mm.
it wouldn't technically get in around Pebble Dash, no.
Okay. Okay. Very good. And then a tip here, actually varnish. That's another thing that's kind of interesting. But tips for removing varnish on pine doors before painting. Is sanding and undercoat enough, or should I be using anything else?
So on that one, I'd use your Otex adhesion primer. It's designed to stick to varnish and ceramic and difficult surfaces, because when you've got the varnish and the pine, it's there years, it's quite
Mm,
slippery. I think a light sanding isn't enough, and a heavy sanding will break your heart, and you'll be
yeah. Okay.
separated, divorced, everything. It's just the most awful job. You'll be
Yeah.
fighting
No,
with
it's
everybody
horrible.
that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's too much of an ask to sand it all back, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't be possible. So no, very light sand, wash it, very light sanding, on with your Otex. And that light sanding is not even completely needed, but it takes away surface contaminants that mightn't come off with the washing, because again, skirtings, polish, wax, everything. So yeah,
Sure. Okay.
Otex
Brilliant.
primer and then tackle.
And Kate, if you're using, particularly say for outside, because we've made this mistake where we had, say, garden furniture was timber, and then my husband went off and bought God knows what and put it on and changed the color and stuff. Is there anything that's like clear and matte that you can put on to protect wood outside? Or like a very soft sheen so that it's not glossy, so you're not sort of changing the look of the timber um, to
I
protect
tell you
things
what
from the
now,
weather.
Denise, you have me there. I might have to come back to you on that one, because we do have. So the Unica that I was saying for inside and outside your window panes, we sell that in a clear as well, and that's the one the
Yeah.
Velux guys use. But I do think that there is a very slight orangey or yellowy development when you put that on. I don't think it's
Okay.
crystal clear. Like what we have done in the past is used it with a slight stain. So the Unica product comes in clear. It comes in the full block color. So for paper or whatever color you choose, it also comes
Hmm.
in a stain. So what we often do is we put in like a slight drop of white. If it was a very
Oh, okay.
orangey, yeah, if
Yeah.
it was a very
Yeah.
orangey garden furniture, the
Yeah.
benefit is as well is a product needs pigmentation to give you the UV resistance. So usually in
Ah,
terms of exterior wood, your lifetime is,
okay.
if you use a clear protective coating, 1 to 2 year life. If you
Hmm.
have a stain, so a small bit of pigment in there, 5 or 6 year life. And if you have full block color, 10, 15, 20 year life.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
putting in a little bit of stain will mean you don't have to paint it again for much longer. You've got
Hmm.
UV protection for much longer. So I would probably go along the lines of adding a small, with my preference, a little bit of white or grey in there, and lessening the oranginess of the wood. But for crystal clear for wood, I'm going to come back to you on that one. I think all of the ones we have bring a slight varnishy look.
Varnish too. Well, maybe they need it, as you say, for UV protection. It's probably, you know, not possible to do it completely clear. So no, that's really interesting. Yeah, that's brilliant.
We
Really, really good.
Before you go, we have one that is invisible. It's like a glass of milk, and you put it on, and it just soaks in, and it prevents any mold from growing in it, and it just protects it. So it's not really a lacquer or a varnish. You can't see it. It's just like watery. It's like putting a wood treatment in there. So it soaks in.
Fab. Okay.
And it's like milk. The consistency. You get a long pile roller. You lash it on. It doesn't matter where there's any striping because it's invisible, and it just penetrates in like if rain was going in. Penetrates in, and it's anti-molding, so it prevents things sticking to it, getting dirty, but it's invisible. Piña oil, it's called. It's a Tickerilla industrial product, but that's probably the one you're looking for if you don't want to see a lacquer or see a varnish layer.
Yeah. No, that
so
sounds good. Yeah.
If you don't want to see a varnish look, you're looking for a non-film forming paint, so no layer, just penetrated in.
Yeah. Amazing. Brilliant. Well, Kate, look, we've taken up so much of your time. Thank you so much. We could go on for ages. I will do my best to come back to anyone on the colour questions, because there were loads of them that we we didn't get a chance to cover, and we'll put in as much info as we can. But Kate, thank you so much for joining us today.
Denise, thank you so much. And any of the last questions, bang them on to us and we'll get back to them, and we should do it again for sure.
Yeah, I would love to. Absolutely love to.
And don't forget my house in Carlow. My new house in Carlow.
Anytime. As soon as I can leave the county, I will. Yeah, absolutely.
Denise, thanks so much. Talk to you shortly.
Bye. Bye.